welcome, respect. So this is the last day of Computer Science Education Week. And so we have an alumni panel here. And I'm just going to put up our VHS help desk site here so you can see it. So 1 second. And so we have done a variety of activities this week. A lot of things, including like VR. We've done some things with robotics, and I'm not sure if like we'll be able to do all those activities with this group. We'll just sort of see how long the panel takes. There we go. All right, so just going to put up the folks that are listed here. So we have Melody Thibodeau, who is with the class of 2000, or was with the class of 2018, and then we have Gati Ahir, who is on Hammer here. And then we also have Emerson Perez, who was the class of 2020. Oh, sorry, Gati was the class of 2019. And then we also have Eric Calabrillo, who was in the class of 2011. So, before we start, we can go through like a little history of like why I have these folks here. So, and sorry, I'll also point this out. Our Computer Science Education Week page, which is on vhshelpdesk.com, has like all the information of the other speakers that we have had this week, and then all the presentations of the group, my groups or my class to me. So, just a little bit of history. So some of these students have gone way back with me, and have gone to different conferences. So there's a conference called MassU. So here's a little history of like Melanie at MassU. So this was at Gillette Stadium, and I took a group of students. So that's also Lucia and Normal, two students that were with me at that conference. And that team has worked with me in various ways with a chatbot that we had worked on with something called AWS or Amazon Web Services. So we actually worked at the International Society for Technology and Education Conference. That was in 2018. And actually you're not seeing me, so I probably should share my screen real quick, and then I will stop doing that. I forgot about that. Well, let me see. Oh, the entire screen. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, and so there are various things that we've done here, and here is her back in 2018. Yeah, you're preparing for that conference, and before there was ChatGPT, you actually had to use other programs to make chatbots. So we use something called Lex, which is something you could still use on AWS. And this was when we were planning for that conference, along with Liz Tyrell. So here's Emerson. So, get your picture. All of us look much younger. I definitely, and it's a little jarring for me to look back at myself, because I was definitely looking younger, looking adult now. So when he was first with me, he did an amazing job with his blog, but most of what we had to do was really through Google Translate.
Yep.
But he did an incredible job with it, so we just used Google Translate a lot, and he did amazing things in terms of like understanding what we're doing, even though we use Google Translate probably 100% of the time. So anyway, that's like a little bit of background. I did not have Eric as a student. He's also would be IT department here, and we have some representatives here from that department today. So that's my little intro. So I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves. And I guess we'll start with Dati. If you want to just maybe introduce yourself a little bit, Dati. And
yeah, I have like 2 slides. Okay,
yeah, I'm just up here.
Yeah, so I did my undergrad in computer science from Olin College of Engineering, which is also in Massachusetts. It's a very small college that basically doesn't do lectures or tests. Like, all my assignments were projects of my choosing, essentially, and it was like a really interesting experience, and you're really into hands-on learning. If you really like what you saw on the playlist, you might want to check out Alumni.
I don't know if you can find like a seat.
I also had a bunch of internships throughout undergrad and a little bit before. I'm going to call out Einstein's Workshop and the Meyer Corporation as two of the experiences I had while I was still in high school that were very helpful. Einstein's Workshop is you can help teach like first robotics classes. You also help out with birthday parties. If you have any Minecraft or Lego experience, they'd love to have you. The Meyer Corporation, I think Mel can talk more about them. But when I was there, I was helping PhDs on researching AI vulnerabilities. I got to do a lot of interesting work for just natural language processing technologies. I gave a big presentation on GPT-3 back before it was like anything was known about it. Basically, my presentation was like, this is all we know about GPT-3 at the time. And then I actually got to work at some startups. I think the Boston area is very nice because you get a lot of MIT grads and other Boston College grads creating these very interesting startups. So Indigo Data, they do a lot of AI-powered document annotation products. One of the people who founded Indigo Data actually came from my undergrad, Olin College, and created GPT, which is later became GPT, but ChatGPT. And he didn't have a PhD or anything. He literally just went from Olin College, founded Indigo Data as a company, and then invented GPT. So they still do a lot of very interesting AI research. And then lastly, I worked at 2 industry labs. So Microsoft Research and Fidelity Labs are the research arms of Microsoft and Fidelity Investments, respectively. At Microsoft Research, I had early access to GPT-3. This was back before Microsoft was considering whether or not they wanted to partner with OpenAI. So I wrote a paper on some of the capabilities of GPT-3 beyond just generating text. And so these industry companies just get wild research opportunities. Like at one point, I was using more compute for GPT-3 than all product demos across Asia. And then OpenAI reached out to me. It was like, hey, you stop. And Microsoft Research was like, no, she's the research intern. She gets to do this. So ask me about startups, industry, opportunities around Burlington. Currently, I'm a second-year PhD at Carnegie Mellon. Can you go to the next slide? I'm working on 2 research projects. One's on trying to use generative AI like ChatGPT to help project-based learning. I've recently won a Catalyst Award to fund that research. The other research is on trying to use agentic systems. So many ChatGPTs working together to automatically edit and generate survey questions. And I'm working with UT Austin, Princeton, a bunch of other labs in that project. And I'm leading both of those. So you can ask me about research as well.
All right, great. Thank you. And then next we put up Melanie Swag here. After you introduce yourself.
As I should move this over to you.
Whichever. So, okay, as you can see, I found got these leads with the slides. So, as part of 2018's class year, and I have my bachelor's and master's from the UMass Dartmouth School. It is considered the hidden gem of the UMasses. And I would, if any of you are looking at computer science, highly recommend you look there. Internships, like Guthrie said, me and her both worked for MITRE. My first encounter of MITRE was actually here at the flipped internship. And it was one of the better experiences that I could say led down the path I did. And then obviously I continued on there. Other ones were Math Digi. As you can see, I put a quick blurb up for each of them. So that was a mobile game development company. And it was more of a company where they taught you some things and then you made a game for them that they could put on the App Store and sell. And finally, you have Redox, which isn't a huge company, but it's a company essentially of cloud services. And essentially what they did was they dealt with a lot of the transfers of documents and files and things across between companies and across borders and things like that. They did a lot of like encrypted clouds and stuff. So there I was IT support for them, software tester, and I helped out with one of their patents while I was there since the head was a lawyer. My current job is at the Naval Undersea Warfare Center, and I am in 2 different teams. One of them allows me to become a programmer, and the other one is documentation, tester, and software installer. OSICing just simply means I monitor other people while they follow my lead. So project and thesis. My project leading up to the thesis was the detecting of Lyme rashes within the images. So essentially, the original title was medical diagnosis in a snap, because you're taking your phone, you take a photo of a rash, and it comes back saying if you can go to doctors or not. That ended up leading to complications, so my thesis became optimizing a data set in order to get the detection rate up and more accurate. My other research has to do with the chest x-ray image processing. Essentially, it's just x-rays we had to go through and identify unnatural articles within like the x-rays to label them out and all that, and then determine if they had different diseases along the way. The Navy one, I'm not going to tell exactly the name of the project I'm working for, but it does involve rule-based automation, and a lot of it is JavaScript based.
All right. My name is Eric Calandrello. Unlike the last two, I don't have any slides for this, and I'm going to be probably the most boring person here. I graduated from Burlington High School in 2011, which was actually before any of the one-to-one stuff happened, before any of the help desk stuff happened. I then went off to UMass Lowell to study in computer science there. I graduated from there in 2015. Throughout my time in college, I was also working here during my breaks as summer help, temp help, seasonal help, whatever word you want to call it. And then once I did graduate, I started working here full-time as a network technician. Over the years, I've worked my way up to be one of the systems administrators for the district. So I'm going to be more of a hybrid computer science programming / IT person, if you want to ask any questions about that. That's kind of what I've got. So I'll move it over to you next.
All right. So, my name is Emerson Perez. I went to Burlington High School for like 2 years, and I enjoyed my class with Mr. Wong, even though I didn't know the language, right? So I graduated on 2020. Then after I graduated, actually on November of that same year, I'm not sure actually, I got hired by the IT department. I'm working on tech support, and you can see my boss right there. A great boss, okay? And now I'm going to UMass Lowell for my cybersecurity degree. I'm still in college actually. And then I'm also trying to get my multilingual cybersecurity integration, so I can share cybersecurity in different languages. And I'm also projects that I'm working. It's like a website that I created for a academy. I mean, it's not in the U.S., but it's in Guatemala, just a country down south. I'm working on that, and I don't know what else. If you have any questions, let me know.
Smack the notes. So that's just their basic introductions, and so we can just move into questions that anybody may have for our panelists. Yeah, so you can direct it to the specific person, or you can also direct it to all of you to answer. And I do have other questions as well, but yeah.
I have one question about the newest model GPT-01 for battery. First, I can't read the name.
It is, yes, yeah. That's okay.
And how far is the newest model GPT-01 different from GPT-4o? Like, what are its capabilities and what is its taking part compared to 4o?
Sorry, can you speak louder?
Yeah. What's the difference between the GPT-01 model and the GPT-4o model? Like, what is the difference in its capabilities and its thinking power?
So the main difference is that O1 is doing more reasoning, like orderly chain of thought. Like they have something in the back end that's making it use more computation more adaptively. I think that would make it better for some tasks that need decomposition. Like, so for programming tasks, it might be better because to program, you might want to take a big problem and divide it to sub-problems. It's been human instruction to do that. GPT-4o has been early chef, like aligned with instruction following. So it's still going to do a reasonable job, but it's not as good at breaking things up. That said, I do think that for most applications, 4.0 is just better. Like, I know what the cost of it's going to be. It's cheaper to run, and I can write better prompts for it. So I tend to use 4.0 more.
And just with the O1 model, like, is it capable of actually analyzing, and for example, for a math problem, is it capable of actually analyzing and doing the exact calculations, or is it still just probability based and like doesn't actually know if it's right or wrong what it's saying there?
So I think both GPT-4o and O1, the way that I would recommend you use it for math is to get it to write out code and then run the code. Because these models are trained to use programming languages or search into those tools, and that's going to make it better at math.
What's it for? But isn't that like only for numerical problems? What about analytic problems where you actually just where I want to get like a formula, not like a numerical approach?
So if you want to get a formula, I do think that the best thing to do is to get the model to try to write code that it represents the formula. Like, there's just more code that's going to be trained on than like math equations or proofs. Yes, I recommend you just try to get it to generate code.
Love this.
Yeah.
All right. Does anybody else have questions? Okay, I'm going to start asking the questions that were posed by other classrooms. So I think maybe we'll start with the AI ones because it's a hot topic. So in Atif in my computer science class asked Melanie, and I think this could go to Melanie and Gatti, or really any of the panelists. You think the advancements of AI put computer science careers at risk?
No, definitely not. It still takes a human to understand how to do all of this. You can have a computer, sure, like you have ChatGPT do stuff, but no, it still requires human. We're not that advanced yet. How about you, Gatti? What's your take?
I think that the thing that used to matter for computer science was like being able to memorize solutions. Like, that's the way that you do your like leak code interviews and stuff. But I think the more important thing is like being able to understand what problems are important to solve, what things you're actually optimizing for, like what trade-offs you're actually dealing with. Like, that's kind of like a matter of taste and expertise. That's what AI is not going to be able to just learn an average over the data set. They're still going to be asking humans to be the final decision makers.
That's honestly like a really great way of saying that. But yeah, I agree with all that. Essentially, it's the way that we think. We're not taught how to just code. Anyone could just code. A computer could just code. We're trained how to think, how to make our decisions, what to look for. If anything, if you want to learn how to code, the best way of doing it, just go online. Just look up a random tutorial. You'll find it's there. Fair enough?
Yeah. So it's adding there. Do you have anything?
Well, I don't really have anything new to add to any of that. I think I'll just kind of echo what both of them have said. For my job here, I don't really do a ton of coding to the extent that you two do, but I definitely do like scripting things. And I can't tell you the number of times that I've gone and looked at somebody else's script that they have made that's unique to their environment, and I've been able to look at it, understand it, like you guys were saying, and then modify it to work for our environment. Like, that's something you're going to have to do no matter what, and that's not something that AI is going to be able to do. There's always going to be tiny little nuances, no matter what environment you're in, whether it's it's here, it's your own personal project, it's something for a job in the future, it doesn't matter. They're all going to have some nuance that an AI is never going to be able to dive fully into.
Good.
AI has nothing to say. I agree with you.
Okay.
If anything, if anything after this, I challenge all of you go on ChatGPT and try finding its limits. There is limits for the model. Always is.
Yeah, that's true.
And there's one more that was directed to Gati Krish, which is what sorts of jobs do people with machine learning degrees do?
Yeah, so I think the main thing of so historically, in order to do a machine learning job, you needed a PhD. I do think that's changing now because the models are powerful enough that you just need to be able to find an interesting application and look at the papers and work that's already done. You don't need a PhD to do that. So machine learning jobs, you're going to get them all over the software stack, especially since a lot of companies they really want to know how to use generative AI. And in order to use generative AI, you might want some human-computer interaction experience. You might want some design experience. You might want some integration, like software development integration skills. So that's on the machine learning side. On the PhD side, I think you're going to want to, it's more entrepreneurial, I think. Like you're trying to find an untapped, under-resourced problem and solve it, and then convince other people that it's worth solving, that it's worth them putting in money for R&D. I think a lot of PhDs don't necessarily work in the field they got their PhD in. Like a lot of people at Duolingo doing education technology stuff, they had PhDs in machine learning for illness and disease tracking. Like a lot of those skills are very transferable. So that's maybe my statement about that.
Okay, and that's Krish, the Sinasara, by the way. So on.
Nice.
Nice, put a question.
That's one more.
Yeah, sure. Done it. And I'm sorry, say your name.
Carl, but I'll start. One question. I have a question about not necessarily just ChatGPT, but about every AI model. I already know that there's like AI models from Google that can do research, like math or physics research, and like develop their own theories. And how far will that develop in the future? And do you think that at some point, like our math development will become obsolete because it's in like past 2 or 3 years? It's been such a race to ChatGPT, like GPT-2 or GPT-2, but it was horrible, and the fork models are so good. So damn good.
Yeah, I mean, interesting question. I think that the main bottleneck right now is actually in evaluation. Like a lot of our ability to generate solutions is outpacing our ability to actually check the correctness of those solutions. And that's why we still need, like at least for the next bit, you need human experts who actually understand the solution to be checking them. I think there's a lot of papers that are overhyping AI capability because they're just using really dumb evaluation metrics. I think one of the things that's really surprising is like we have all these coding chatbot, like Copilot type things. People really like using them, but it doesn't actually improve performance. Like if you go through and track how much code a developer ends up writing or how much more efficient they are, it's like not significant.
Yes, because you have a problem or something, then you copy the code, put it in, and then you have 5 other errors that result from this.
Yeah.
And if the solid joint.
Yeah, so like we're getting a lot of fancy techniques to better align instruction following, AI model, chain of thought, but the methods to just actually tell it what direction to improve on are still lacking. So maybe we need to develop like super high fidelity simulation environments, which is one of the things I've been trying to work on. So we can give the AI or algorithm enough feedback to actually improve in the right direction, but then you need a ton of expert domain knowledge to even build the simulation environment. So I think that's the bottleneck. I'm excited to see what people would do about it.
Okay, so the next question, I think we're on for Emerson. Oh, sorry, was there a question back here? Oh, I'm sorry. This is for the IT people. What's your name, please? About and it's just, what does your job look like? Just day to day. Just kidding.
Day to day, huh? Do you want to go first? Or you go? Yeah, all right, I'll go first. I work more on all of the back end things. So day to day could totally change based on the day. Hey, there's a network outage somewhere. Like myself and one of my colleagues end up going to go look at that. If there's no immediate issues, then it's all right. Well, now let's start planning for whatever our next upcoming, I don't know, speed bump, milestone, whatever you want to call it. Whether that's all right, we have a break coming up. What are the projects we want to start working on over that break while there's nobody here? As it gets closer to like the end of the school year, we start looking at what does our summer look like? How do we want to plan for that? What things do we need to do for there? It could be, hey, we know there's a software update coming up. Or do we know things are going to break at that point? So I don't really have a specific day to day. It really is come in the morning, check in with everybody and see like what's going on for that day and what do we need to look at.
So for me, I'm more in the tech support side. So let's say I'm in charge of like elementary level, like four schools. So let's say what I've been doing lately is like I do like 2 schools per day, right? So every morning I come in, we have like a ticketing system. So where teacher or like staff member go and put in tickets. So I go through the tickets and I like create my plan, right? Let's say I'll go to Pineland and do like 3 tickets, right? And if I do it like faster like than I expected, I'll hang out there for like like 30, 40 more minutes in case someone has issues. And then if I don't get like anything, I go to another school. And when I'm unable to like resolve the issue or the ticket, I go to Eric and I start like bothering Eric, right? Because my job is more like technical stuff like tech support, let's say it like that.
So another kind of IT related question for both of you guys.
That's right.
Shay, which is why do students in this school use iPads instead of Chromebooks like any other schools? What would you say are the major differences between Chromebooks and iPads and educational usage?
Okay, so the first half of that question, there's a couple different reasons for it. First and foremost, this entire thing started back in 2011. So summer of 2011 was the first year that we did one-to-one iPads at the high school. At that time, Chromebooks weren't really a thing. Like if I remember right, the first Chromebooks came out in May of 2011. So it wouldn't really have given us any time to do that. So we started with iPads anyway, mostly because they were the only option. But as time went on, it is the best option to us, whether it's for project-based learning type things where students can make videos, they can make podcasts, they can annotate a lot easier on them, to just people got used to that. I don't remember the exact year. I want to say it was 2015 or 16. We actually did try to go Chromebooks here, believe it or not. We did a full year refresh of that incoming freshman class got Chromebooks, and that's probably one of the worst decisions that we've ever made. Nobody really liked them, and one of the things that we found most frequently was 90% of the requests that we got probably from teachers throughout that set of years that those students went through classes with Chromebooks basically boiled down to, how do I get this Chromebook to act like an iPad? How do I let people make videos on it? How do I do this project I've been doing for the last 5-6 years now that I don't have an iPad? Which then pushed us to go right back to iPads. What's the difference if they do use Chromebooks? I think they don't get to do any of the things I was just saying. They don't get to do a bunch of projects. It becomes a lot more of just, here's your device, and it's basically a glorified typewriter, and that's about it. I think you lose a lot of that, I'll say fun and engaging type of projects that teachers get to do. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add to that.
Chromebooks, they get slow. So we still have some Chromebooks in circulation, and I'll say, Dennis, you hearing this? I hate them. Because sometimes staff members put in tickets like about like having issues with Chromebooks, and just like turning on the Chromebook takes like a couple of minutes, few minutes, and they're slow.
Any other question, practice? Okay, so there was one directed to Melanie specifically from Kathy, which is, did you know in high school you wanted to help the military to do their research?
So that's a complicated question. I've always been interested in the government just because my family's background has been with Sikorsky's and other portions of government contractors and government in general sense. So I would say that definitely was a leading factor into it. Computer science as a whole, though, I would give that credit to Ms. Tyrell and Mr. Wong, actually, for going into computer science. A good chunk of it was I already had, computers, but when it came down to choosing my path, it really was their influence that really just helped me make the leap, essentially, if that makes sense at all.
All right, so I think following along with that, for all of you, this was a question from Aaron in one of my classes. Did you always know you were interested in the field that you're currently in, or did you discover it somewhere along the way, say after college or through a work experience? So I don't know who wants to go first.
All right, well, you just kind of answered this.
Yeah, so, yeah, got the year up.
I mean, I think that the experiences I had in high school really set me up to have a more unique and interesting perspective on the sorts of problems I'm trying to solve today. Specifically the work I did at Einstein's workshop, I had a lot of fun doing it. Also Mr. Wong's class, I had a lot of fun just seeing all the things that technology could do. And I think that really set me off on the trajectory of opportunities I sought out after that when I finally got into college. So thank you, Mr. Wong.
That's not the only reason that's
Tyrell,
panel, but
I know, right? What did you pay her?
not paying them anything.
So for me, I kind of always knew I wanted to do something with computers, whether that was hardware, software. I never really honed in on any of that. When I had graduated high school, I decided to go in for computer science. I figured programming was something that I did want to do. And then while I was in college doing that, I was also working here, and it was more work experience. I think the more and more I worked here, the more and more I liked it. Clearly they liked me because I'm still here. And so I stayed. I stayed. I haven't really regretted it. I've enjoyed every minute of it, and that's my entire thing.
So for me, before moving to the US, I always wanted to do something related to computer science, right? But I never got the chance. Then I moved to the US and I wasn't even thinking about it. And again, when I started the class with Mr. Wong, oh my God, everything started coming back, and it's when I decided to take computer science when going to college. And now here I am.
This is sort of my general question for really all the speakers this week. But what from your high school experience, college experience, work experience, what are the recommendations that you would make to our group here in terms of achieving the goals, doing the things that you want to do in your career, your life, etc.? What are the recommendations you would give to them?
That's a good question. I think I would kind of say, I don't know how to word this right. Don't bring yourself down too much. I definitely struggled a bit with confidence issues for things. I'll be honest, if you asked me back when I was a sophomore in college to do something like this, never in a million years would I have done it. I never would have gotten up to speak in front of people. I never would have done anything like this. That's something that just as time went on, I kind of realized I don't really have a reason to not try this. I don't have a reason to not do this. What I found myself starting to do is I started finding myself with different opportunities and thinking to myself, what's the worst case scenario here? What happens if I go for this and it doesn't work out? Well, in the worst case, I look at it and I go, great, cool. I just tried something and I either got unlucky and I didn't learn anything at all from it, or I at least got something out of it. And something is better than nothing. So I guess my biggest piece of advice is don't don't say no just for saying no or because you're too nervous about something. Give it a try. If there's no real downside to it and you can get something out of it, give it a try. Whether that's a class, whether that's an event, whether that's an internship, a job, an interview, a conversation, doesn't matter. Any of it, just try it at least once.
So similar for you, as you said, was imposter syndrome is a real thing when you get out of college and anytime schooling, you'll probably have it for years. Just remember, you are smart. And another thing is, whatever you do, put your full effort into it or you will not see progress. Don't hesitate. Just jump in. You're going to see a cliff possibly, in bad metaphor here. But one of the best metaphors I was given at the time was when I was looking at research, my professor at the time said, you're never going to learn by dipping your toes in. You either have to jump or not at all. Choose. So do that and give yourself like a little bit of a break every so often. You're doing wonders. Just keep going.
I actually want to touch on something that you just said, which was imposter syndrome is real. You just reminded me when I was in college.
It still happens.
There were about, I know, right? There were about 3 or 4 kids that I remember that were in most of my computer science classes that the questions they were asking, the projects they were working on, I was sitting there going, why am I here? Like, I am nothing compared to any of them. And that is something you do not ever want to do. Don't sit there and compare yourself to the people around you and go, man, I'm really bad at this. Like, no. You are still good. They're just a different ballpark, which is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. You need to always keep that in mind. Because that, again, I ran into that and I was sitting there going, I don't belong in this class. But it's fine. There's nothing wrong at all.
Yeah, if anything, that's when you become friends with those people and you learn from them.
That is true, yeah, actually.
You don't see them as a different, like, you don't just say, oh, they're in a different field park. That's great. You're like, those are the people you need to become friends with because they will teach you and they will kind of, in a way, carry you to the same level as they are. So you'll catch up and you can do projects with them, and you do see this with the people you hang out with. If you hang out with people who slack, you will eventually follow suit. If you hang out with people who do wonders, you will eventually follow suit and do wonders. At least that's what I've seen in school.
Yeah.
I'm gonna answer your picture. Yeah. So, like they said, like at the beginning you're gonna feel like kind of lost, but a good thing to remember, a computer science is like a big field. You have a lot of careers there, but you try to do your own projects so you will like know what you want to go like into, you know. And the other thing is like computer science is it's a different language, you know. Especially me, I say English being my second language. When I started computer science, I was like, oh, I gotta learn another language, even though it's English, right? But you know, just like try to learn and just don't give up and just try it. Try everything.
And then, Gatti, what advice do you have?
I think the most important thing to do is be very critical about who you're asking for feedback. A lot of people you think are experts might not be experts on the thing that you're asking them about. This is especially true in research, where if you end up doing research either in high school or in college, the person leading the project, like, they don't have the entire solution out. That's why it's research, right? Or that's why it's like problem solving. I think it really matters that you take the initiative to try to take steps and think of problems that your boss or your advisor hasn't even thought of. Like, that's the bit where you get to sharpen your own teeth and figure out what you're doing. I think that's the most important thing. I think a lot of people, when they're doing applications for stuff, I highly recommend you to apply for things that you're not 100% qualified for. No one's ever 100% qualified for those. Like, companies have an incentive to make jobs seem like they require more qualifications than they actually require. The most important thing is be aware that you might not have all the qualifications and use that as an opportunity to ask questions to people who might seem to have qualifications. Like the same thing that Mel was talking about. Just ask questions and people will answer. And if people aren't answering, ask questions to other people.
All right. So does anybody else have any questions? Oh, I have a question. Oh, actually, it was just ringing back. First of all, I get it. So this is going to be sort of a self-serving question, but I was curious for all of you, because I think students get very locked into like, well, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do computer science, right? And then often they ask me like, what's the point of like, why are we learning Latin, or why are we learning, English, or like poetic devices stuff? So I know that in my life, like biology, math classes, statistics, that like, even though that's not my job, like have certainly come in handy and like they helped fill out my life. So I was hopeful that maybe you guys could speak on like how the other classes took place beyond computer science, but have nevertheless like informed your life, careers, jobs, etc. Because we want our people to be rounded, right?
Yeah.
Infinite.
So I think the humanities matter a lot in technology. My advisor, who is a machine learning guy, before he did his PhD, he was a jazz musician. And like one of the reasons I was able to like get into like Microsoft was actually because I had done like a ton of art, and by looking at like my art was what made me stand out, because people said like the most senior researcher at Microsoft in AI said, wow, this person can really draw. That means she has enough patience to work on a problem and make it look interesting. And that's actually what got me my Microsoft research job. It ends up being like those things that actually make you stand out and have an interesting perspective on the problem. Otherwise, everyone can just read the problems and read the solutions and implement whatever is online. These other classes or these other opportunities is what gives you a more interesting perspective. And at the end of the day, that's what people care about.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely like Guthrie said, the humanities, all the other classes that you're not thinking about now, definitely, as you said, Guthrie, of course. And also on top of it, they're building blocks to advance yourself like in different ways. So you might not think about history as much right now, but say down the line, you could come up with an idea how to do something with it. Or, better example, Mr. Stringer, and precisely since you asked this question, languages. Obviously, if you go to different countries, you'd need different languages. Well, not all of the computer science companies in the world, or anything, will speak the same language. So it's very nice to be able to have a building block of understanding how to learn the languages. And using what you know in high school, you can use those techniques in future ways to help you expand your language base. For math, you need your math skills. That's a building block. English, all of them are building blocks for everything in the future. So take your time. Try not to just get absorbed in the very center of things in at the moment. Look at a broader scale.
Yeah, I think what you guys have both said has been 100% right. I think that one of the biggest things that students end up focusing too much on isn't, hey, I'm never going to need English. It's, I'm never going to need this specific thing that I'm learning in English right now. Why am I ever going to need to know that the author of this poem used a flower to symbolize this? Like, you're not probably. But what you are going to need to know is what you were getting at, which is the building block, the concept of that, of I'm not looking at that symbolism. I'm looking at what is the person thinking? How is this other person that is not me? How are they thinking? What is their mind state? I mean, that comes in play here in IT, in computer science, in programming, in any job really, where your end result is going to be end user facing, where you're going to try and preemptively look at it and go, what is this going to look like to somebody else? What is somebody else going to look at this and see and read and think, and how is this going to come across? Like, that's a very specific example, yes, I know, but it's more to get the point across of like, you're not looking at your specific examples. You're not looking at your specific math class that you're in right now. Like they were saying, it's all concepts that you need to build off of and learn to manipulate those to serve you in your job, your career, your life even.
So I learned something about languages. So let's say if you have like a computer science degree in the United States, that's a big thing because opens you like doors like worldwide, right? But if you know more than one language and you have like a bilingual or like multilingual certification, that's even bigger. So I'll say, for example, like I said before, I'm gonna try to get like my multilingual like cybersecurity integration. If I wanna work in like any other country, I mean, in another country where they speak like Spanish, it'll be easier for me to like get a job because I qualify to like integrate cybersecurity in their language. All right.
All right. So are there any other questions? All right. So I want to thank our panelists. One thing I want to say is that through working with you, you have challenged me to be just a better teacher, better person. Just very grateful to, have the working relationship with you just, through all this time. So I know we only have maybe 10-ish minutes or so, but the folks that are in my game design class, can you maybe raise your hands real quick? So this is technically the game design period. You're going to have like a little bit of time to kind of talk to them. If anybody wants to talk to any of the panelists one-on-one, Gutty, could you stay on the camera for a little bit longer? I'll end the recording, and then if people want to talk to Gutty, but that's pretty much the conclusion of this. So let's just give them a round of applause.